What's up, dude?
How's it going, guys?
Another live stream Monday. Yeah,
we got a lot of good topics.
Yeah,
we have a lot of good topics to go over today. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that notification bell. We go live almost every day, but not always at the same time. So it's good to stay notified and get a little notification so you can join us live. Big shout out to our patrons, everyone supporting us on patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. You can join by clicking the link in the description. Patrons got to see our Noam Chomsky interview early. They get to join our live streams. A lot of cool benefits you can check out at that link in the description. Anyway, huge shout out to everyone.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder, all the Patreon money, that doesn't go for me and Gavin. That's just all put into a fund for some larger scale projects that we're trying to do, some on the ground stuff. That stuff isn't free. We've got to be able to, transport ourselves, fix the van, do all that kind of shit. But we're on our way, and there will be more on the ground content coming soon.
Since we're talking about Destiny today, I was rewatching this old debate from Destiny v Vosh, and he was like, why don't some of you leftier streamers, why don't you take your Patreon money and open a McDonald's and then run it democratically like a democratic social business to prove how leftism would work in theory or whatever. Like he was basically trying to do a gotcha, like you're not a real socialist because you're not using your Patreon revenue to prove how socialism would work by democratizing.
You participate McDonald's. In the barbarisms of capitalism.
Yeah.
You are not
how dare you come? And I don't even like Vosh, but I was still seriously, anyway, we'll get more into Destiny later, but I just thought that was hilarious. And sorry, we're not democratizing McDonald's with the Patreon money, but we are making it to fuel a lot of dank content for you guys, documentaries, ambitious shit like that. You guys are gonna want to see it. So again, that link's in the description. But we wanted to start off with a continuation of a segment we did on our stream from the other day where we were talking about what's going down in Chicago. Obviously, in the midst of this, brutal police murder of Adam Toledo, there's been a lot of protests.
Little boy.
Yeah, a literal 13-year-old child murdered by the Chicago Police Department. And obviously there's been a lot of upheaval, a lot of calls for Mayor Lightfoot to resign. And we wanted to invite on one of our friends of the show, Matt T. He's the host of the Midwest Socialist podcast, highly recommended. He's also a member of the Chicago Southside DSA. He's a true comrade, and we like having him on every once in a while to see what's going on the ground in Chicago. So without further ado, welcome to the stream, Matt.
What's going on, guys?
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, man.
So I guess obviously, there's an ongoing another tragedy has struck. Chicago is no stranger to them. Neither is the rest of the world. The Chicago police, murdered a 13-year-old little boy on the west side of Chicago, Adam Toledo. In the aftermath of that, there was a cover-up. Again, the people of Chicago are no stranger to this kind of behavior when it comes from the police. A lot of horrifying events happened in the way that they treated that little boy's poor mother. People have justifiably taken to the streets to protest what's happening. And Matt, we wanted to know if maybe you could just shed a little insight into the mourning that is going on in the community and the response that people are taking because they're so fed up. All of the lessons that we thought people might take away from Laquan McDonald, another 17-year-old little boy that was killed by the, Chicago Police Department. And I use that terminology because so often, children of color are made into men by the police. And it's so important that we remember that these are children. I just wanted to kind of get your reaction to that, Matt.
Yeah, I think you bring up a lot of, good things that should have been remembered, good things that are right to call out, that should have fixed after previous the Emanuel administration, but by those in power, those lessons were learned by the people of what we should demand and what we should, expect, what we deserve as human beings. The people in power didn't learn anything. They didn't want to learn anything. They didn't want to fix anything. If they did, defund would be more of a reality. Treatment, not trauma, would be more of a reality that has been introduced by DSA alderperson within City Council, Rosana Rodriguez. Those lessons, we didn't. Even the people didn't need to learn them. We knew them already. We knew that those are the right things to do. The city it's not a matter of learning or unlearning alone. It's a matter of doing, and they just refuse to do. It's a refusal to act and change anything. So I reiterate those points because it's not only just pure evil. It's not only just pure, like, it goes. Lori Lightfoot is such a weird character to begin with. I mean, she's like a D-list Gotham villain, but at the same time, it's just such a commitment to capitalism. And I wish it were a more nuanced answer to that. I wish it were a more nuanced, like something grander than that. But it's such a commitment to white supremacy, capitalism, racial capitalism. I mean, it's draining. It's so fucking draining to see it happening again and again. And, I can go into more of the details. There's also just so much other fallout that happened in the past week or so regarding her and regarding, what was happening with the police. But, I don't know how much more we need to learn. It's just a matter of shit just has to happen now kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, something else we were talking about on the show the other day that seemed really weird and out of left field to me was her like randomly addressing these rumors that she had been engaged in extramarital affair or behavior. And to me, it just came as like totally obfuscatory. Like, let's bring up this issue so that I can then claim to be the victim of like misogyny or whatever. Meanwhile, this crisis is going on that I was complicit in, that I essentially helped try to cover up and, helped fund these police and before this happened. Did you see it as that? Or, I mean, I'm not really involved in what's going on in Chicago, so I don't know, but like, it seemed totally random. And I'm like, why are we talking about this now?
Yeah. I mean, so what you're referring to is the rumors that came out late Saturday night, and it sent, Chicagoans into a tizzy. And I know everybody who followed a lot of Chicago people, like leftist Chicagoans, probably very annoyed, rightly so, that we wouldn't shut up about how weird this was. It was, so last year, apparently the cops had also started a rumor that the mayor was going to be moving out of her, I think she's in Avondale. It might be Logan Square. I always get those two mixed up. But out of her house in one of the Chicago neighborhoods around here, that she was going to be moving out and going out to a suburb called Saginaw. She was going to get a big mansion, and brilliant move by the cops to know how tribal Chicagoans are. It's like, you're going to leave? Like, how dare you? And she was going to move to a mansion and all this stuff. Like they just, it was a completely, like, just a way to fuck with her. And then now, and what happened on Saturday night was this rumor that was being circulated or at least entertained by highly reputable sources in the city that were calling people for confirmation and things like that, said that the mayor was going to resign on Sunday morning because of what you were just saying, that she was having an extramarital affair. There was claims of spousal abuse, and there was just so much other crap going on. And we were like, I think a lot of us, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us would say this isn't how we wanted the victory to happen, but we'll count this as a victory in some way. And yeah, just the fucking gall of saying, don't believe the news cycle, when she wanted to dominate the news cycle with like lying about the murder of a child, like lying about, and the cover up that went into it, and saying, and what the Cook County, one of the prosecutors was like, well, I spoke too soon about maybe there was a gun on the scene or something. Like right. Like what a hypocrite, what a disgusting hypocrite.
And also just portraying him as a child of the streets, as if he has no family because he's, a brown kid, and oh no, like this kid is his mom had filed a missing persons report for him. When they showed her, when the police came to her and asked for confirmation, is this your child? She thought it was to file a missing persons report, and they were actually just identifying the child that they had murdered the night before. And I mean, it's just that kind of like horrifying. I mean, you can't even put into words the kind of pain and excruciation that his mother must be going through. And then to see plastered through the papers as if she didn't love her son, as if she had abandoned him, and all of those kinds of things. That is racism in action in this country. That is how they try and justify those kinds of things. And that is why people rightly point out constantly that the systemic racism involved in policing is so deeply intertwined with the media, and the way that the media gives deference to the police at all opportunities.
Right. Right. I mean, you couldn't have said it better myself. I think that it was just textbook. It's draining to be like, what's changed? Is anything new? No, it's the exact same thing over and over again of, pigs looking out for pigs and pigs protecting their own. There's no stronger sense of solidarity in this country than pigs looking out for each other. I hate to say it. I think that's a little sad to admit. And
it's so true. So true.
And none of this is by accident. None of this is by chance. I really, I want to stop being surprised. I want to stop being shocked, but it's still shocking. It's still fucking shocking. It's because it's so horrendous. It's so horrendous.
Because you're human. You know what I mean? You can't look at a headline that says, I mean, God, I mean, you can't not get that feeling in your stomach that we all know, when you see something like this and you see a headline that says, we await footage of a 13-year-old boy being killed by the police. It's like, I mean, you can't not get that feeling in your stomach. It's only human. That never goes away.
Right. And I think, like, in the fallout of it, I was personally a little surprised or, wondering what the hell is the city going to do? Like, how is the city going to react? Like, justifiably so. There's so much anger coursing throughout the city, and there was, protesting in the Loop became very dangerous after last summer. The Loop being our main business center. All roads lead to the Loop kind of thing, and it's just a concentration of capital in such an intense way throughout the city, and it was terrifying. It became terrifying to protest on there. It became terrifying to be there during any of these things, because the mayor made it a fucking terror zone. It made it into a war zone.
Well, Chicago has a whole history of that going back 50 fucking years, 70 fucking years.
Yeah, exactly. And so that became so blown up. So thankfully, so I think rightly so. The reports are, I don't know if the reports do the numbers justice, but there was at least 5,000 to 7,000 people in Logan Square, a neighborhood kind of in the northwest side. I think that's, I'm always really, really bad at directions, but
you go off the blue line to get there. I know that.
There you go. Yeah. Very weird to get out of the blue line. Chicagoans will appreciate this and look into Logan Square and see thousands of people in the actual square of Logan in that center. It was incredible. And we're just like, again, I'm going to speak personally about it. It wasn't a matter of, I believe in abolition. I believe in defund. I believe in all of these things. But at a certain point, you just hate this. You need a day or two to truly hate this place. You need to hate this system and to rightly call it out for what it is, as simple as it is and as straightforward as it is, that it's just the heart of, living in the heart of the empire, in the microsex of the empire, is one of the most terrifying and awful things that a human being can go through. And you hate it all. And there was so many people. It was really beautiful shows of solidarity, and it went surprisingly well. And there's a tradition when we protest up here in Logan Square that we march towards Lori's house because she lives right around there. And every time without fail, the cops are blocking off her street. Like every time, they're always out there. Her neighbors hate having her around because of that. Exactly. Like it's not only the protest. It's just like you really went all out, and it happened after last summer. But like, again, you go back to that. The cops hate Lori. The cops really fucking hate Lori. It makes
even though
no
she keeps
sense.
giving them money.
Gives them money. Overwhelmingly will give them the benefit of the doubt and will speak in their favor in press conference. I mean, overwhelmingly towards them. And the cops are still a highly reactionary force. They're highly homophobic, like racist. Like, that's because that all speaks to even more of the core of what the police are, that they could have someone as, fitting into rainbow capitalism, as I would like to say, like a black queer woman. They still can't, like a majority of them can't wrap their heads around someone like that. They still hate her so much. It's still not enough for them. They're still fucking monsters. And so when we protest, they're like always happy to see her fucked with. Like they're happy, but like we have very different reasons for being
now I'm
there.
feeling bad for her.
No, you never.
How do you compare? You're a longtime Chicagoan, right, Matt?
I was raised in the area for a long time. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, how would you compare, Lori Lightfoot, who is not a popular mayor, to probably one of the most despised mayors I know of, which was Rahm Emanuel, who came before her.
Rahm, it was, it was the Daley administration. It was all rich and the younger Daley. And you see these things as like a Chicagoan politician that like had power for a very long time because he knew how to do political favors for people. Like, yeah, very corrupt, very like the beginning of liberalism within this, and perfected the footsteps of neoliberalism. And then Rahm and Lori, they're just like bad politicians. They're just really bad at doing favors for people. They're really bad at like fucking cutting anybody some slack, and it snowballs into just more and more evil shit. And they don't know how to give any community like a lot of benefit of the doubt. They don't know how to give how to cut some slack, or they just don't know how to give a little. And it comes like a fortress of fucking repression and analyze just fucking it becomes a drain. So compared to Rahm, it very similar. And I think now we're just seeing, I think, just really terrible. There's no forgiving. There's no forgiving of this. And the craziest part is I think just now, like somewhat, she could lose her race, because up until a month ago, I very clearly thought, even after everything that happened last summer, teachers unions, everything, still thought she could have won. Who could beat her? I really don't know, but a one-term mayor is very possible. That's not the most common thing in Chicago. So yeah.
That's interesting. Well, as I put this article on screen, a lot of people are calling for her resignation, and not just obviously because of the stupid, affair or whatever, tabloid garbage, but is this something you think actually is a serious call that has some momentum behind it in activist circles in Chicago? Like, is this something that the South Side DSA is calling for? Do you know what would happen in this event? Like, who would replace her? If it would be a step up, or like what would happen in that event, or if there's even any possibility of something like that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of Chicago DSA, and that's the South Side branch, is like a branch of it. And there's North Side Blue Line, North Side, or Red Line, and West Cook and stuff like that. So it's like a whole citywide chapter. But it's something that we have to take more seriously. I think it's something that we have to step up and kind of do a little bit more work behind. It's the right call. It's the absolutely correct thing that we should be demanding. It is. It's. I don't want to say too little, too late, because I would like to give a little benefit of the doubt to organizations around the city and things like that. But it sure as shit isn't getting any better with her being there. So it's something that absolutely should be demanded and called for more seriously. Who would take her place? Very good question. I am not very well caught up on the rules of Chicago City Council. It might be, I was hearing some things about this Alderman Tom Tunney, who is an alderman in the Lakeview neighborhood up north. Just also another very dumb person. Like, he owns a chain of restaurants in the city called Ann Sather's, and he got caught for he owns them as an alderman, and he got caught for opening them illegally during COVID restrictions. And he is known for opening up like good Cinnabons. They're delicious Cinnabons. Not gonna lie, good job, Tom Tunney. We have the dumbest fucking politicians. And remember Jim Oberweis? Did you guys ever hear about Jim Oberweis? Do you know about him? He was not a Chicago guy. He was an Illinois politician. This guy has been trying to run for office.
Isn't it like an ice cream company called Oberweis?
Yes.
Is he the guy
He's
behind
a milk magnate. He's a milk magnate who is like a downstate Republican embroiled in so many fucking conspiracy, just so much dumb crime. We just have the stupidest fucking people here in office. And I don't know, I compared it to the best way that I have been able to think about it is that Chicago, and to a greater extent Illinois, is like a mini game within Mario Party. It's so bizarre, and you get very little in return every time you play it, but you're forced to play it every goddamn time. And you're playing against fucking like Krupas or something like that. Like those are your enemies, fucking short little stocky fat guys from the South Side that you have to pay off to open up a Burger King. That happened with Alderman Ed Burke. You had to pay him for a Burger King, and he's still in power. That was a federal investigation, and that dumb little Irishman is still in power. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. But
yeah, Lori Lightfoot in particular is a weird character. I know you're saying like she's kind of like I don't want to get into like ad hominem territory, but she's creepy. Like she is like you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah, creepy,
reptilian. Yeah,
truly like if anything's going to make me a David Icke kind of guy, it's going to be Lori Lightfoot. Before the Queen, before the royal family, it's going to be that like turtle faced dum-dum in a fish tank. You fucking lunatic. No sympathy for her at all. Just a weird human being.
Well, speaking of weird human beings and dumb lunatics, I did want to kind of ask you about, and although this is obvious and it's kind of setting you up to say whatever you please, any reaction to the response from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris
regarding the murder or
and also, I mean, I did want to ask you a little bit. Obviously, there's the Chauvin trial, which is now going to deliberation today, and one of the things that we've been talking about on the show is if you needed an example of just how fucked up and broken, the United States police system is, as if there weren't thousands to choose from before, this past stretch, at the time of the Chauvin trial, how many police killings have there been when they're supposedly trying to be on their best behavior and prove that we need police, in all of these kinds of things. They had that, not just the killings, which they, this 20 some odd year veteran of the force, accidentally shot a man. Okay. 13-year-old boy gets killed, but also there was a man who was just driving home in his fucking new car that he bought in like a full army uniform. And they were like, get out of the fucking car. And like spray, it's all of these things compounding. So yeah, there's been just a real lack of response from the White House, or a sufficient response, obviously, but I just wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I mean, we know cops don't talk bad about other cops, so I'm not really surprised by that. I go back to that earlier point of like, they don't have to be on their best behavior. Who the fuck do they have to impress? Who is challenging them in earnest? Every city that went up this past summer in the uprisings, they're all run by, like, a majority of them, or if not all of them, are run by Democratic mayors. Who in their right mind feels compelled to like challenge them at that level of power, or who at that level of power will ever speak out against them, and will they try to be better at? It's not. It's trying to be better in a very corporatized sense of like, we need to diversify our workforce. We need to do all this. We need to, everything that we have seen. There was body cam footage of Adam Toledo being murdered. There was, those steps that we took in order for police violence to be cut down. Sure, the cops hate them, but that's, not enough. That's not enough. Like it's supposed to be a means to an end. It's a tactic to an end. It is not the end. I unless they've said something differently, like I've been so tapped into like what's been happening in Chicago, I've been barely paying attention to like really what Biden and Kamala have been saying. But I know that like it's been lackluster is a very generous term to probably use for that, and it has been disgusting to say the least. So
something I've been thinking about too, and oh no, you're good. And a bit of a prediction, I guess, is that I feel like they are going to convict Chauvin. I do feel like he's going to be found guilty, and they're almost going to like be sacrificing him to the system to restore people's faith in the system, right? So then everyone's like, "Oh, justice was delivered. The police is the system does work. The justice, you know what I'm saying?" And then people, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know but that's something to think about. Either way, I mean, it would definitely be worse if he doesn't get found guilty. and certainly I hope that he does. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how the rest of the event.
Yeah, well, frankly, I think it's just important, like you said, to point out that whatever happens to Derek Chauvin does not change the problem with policing. And of course, I want the book to get thrown at Chauvin. He deserves to rot in fucking prison if anybody does. You know, again, I am an abolitionist, but I used to like to make this fucking joke all the time that was like, the U.S. government doesn't want me on a fucking jury duty because I know the result, hung jury, right? Like, I'm not fucking convicting anybody in this corrupt fucking system, but you know, I'll tell you what, there are a couple of motherfuckers as of late that I would have no problem deliberating on, and that's obviously Derek Chauvin. Yeah. But yeah, it's not. This is not a remedy. This is not a resolution. This is just taking out the garbage, essentially.
Yeah, and I think my most cynical read on that, and this is probably like my most, I don't know, it's not a hot take, but it's something that is the least generous in those things, is like, those trials still reiterate the bad apple mentality, because you're just trying to convict one person. Right. And as corny as it sounds, the whole system has to be on fucking trial. And then the whole system will never go to trial, because the trial is in the system and the system is in the trial. And this is radicalism like 101. This is fucking, yes, of course I want him to have every book thrown at. I want everything. But I don't want us, and I really think that more and more generations are going to grow up and saying, oh, that's still not enough. That's still not, one guy in prison is not enough to change the system. The interesting thing, and this is just pure, kind of a sociological question. Will more cops be like, it's too hard to be a cop? They're going to, those same kind of like pig complaints. People are coming after us. We're being attacked. Blah, blah. I want to quit. It's too hard. Like there was a surge of like retirements and quittings, after last summer in CPD.
Thank God, right?
Yeah, good. Does that weaken the police? No. It's a lot more embedded than that. It just takes a lot more work than that. But we take justice where we can find it, and those are steps. Those are not
the limited kind of justice we've been conditioned to accept. Rather,
exactly. You
can't bring joy like
Matt. I wanted to give you an opportunity too to let people know about the Midwest Socialist podcast. Obviously, we're not in Chicago; we're in Kansas City, but we are fellow corn commies here. So always love to give you a platform and you spread the word about a fellow Midwestern leftist podcast.
Yeah. We've been taking a bit of a hiatus right now. I am still a human being, and I'm in grad school and trying to finish all that up. Yeah, and so it's like just starting a new job and like really like
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Really starting to come out of my quarantine a little bit and like doing normal stuff. So I'm playing catch up with a lot of stuff, but we've got some really good stuff coming out. We did a collaboration episode with Jake from Pod Damn America that should be coming out soon. That was really fun, going into like Lenin's State and Revolution. So that should be coming out soon. And
Pod Save America?
Pod Damn America. Pod Damn America. Thank you. Like I would love to talk with the
Matt's
guys.
Matt's been kicking it with Jon Favreau, guys. You better check this shit out.
You got Chomsky, I got Favreau, baby.
There you go.
Yeah. So MidwestSocialist.com. It is the like magazine propaganda wing of Chicago DSA, and that's where we do a lot of our stuff. So and join DSA and do this organizing. This shit, it's hard work, but it's the only thing that's worth saving us. And don't fall into Obama era liberalism is what I'll say, because I realize that I think a lot of us are still waking up out of that coma. I think a lot of us are waking up out of it, but we're still we need a splash of cold water in our face.
Some of us might be falling back into that trance too. So it's important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think socialism, organizing, communism, that's the splash of cold water we need to wake us out of that nightmare. So yes.
100%.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today, man. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, dude.
It was always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Have a good rest of your day, guys.
See you next time, bro.
Bye. Sweet.
Yeah, so that was our homie Matt from Chicago. Always great to chat with him on the Vanguard.
Yeah, dude, knows his stuff, knows his theory, and is also just a chill guy. So we like having him on the show pretty regularly. He's a good homie of the show now, for sure. That's I think our third or fourth time chatting with him. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah, we've been having him on a couple times now. So glad to introduce some of you new comrades that have just maybe started watching the Vanguard more recently, to a good voice up in Chicago. Again, check out the MidwestSocialist.com for more information and to keep up with
more red propaganda, guys.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. We got to disseminate that leftist propaganda, that communist fucking shit. Anyway, our next guest, speaking of communist shit, he's one of the co-hosts of the Fred Hampton Left podcast. Super exciting stuff. His name is James Fauntleroy, and we're super excited to chat with him. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. Great to have you here.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm just happy to be here.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, among leftist friends, because the internet can be a little lonely place, especially when you're dealing with a lot of liberals and right wingers.
That is so true. Yeah, so freaking true. Well, obviously, like I mentioned, you're one of the co-hosts, one of several co-hosts of the recently rolled out Fred Hampton Left podcast. And I was just wondering if you could give a little bit of an introduction to what that is, if people aren't familiar, and specifically the role you're playing in the project.
The spirit of Fred Hampton was deeply rooted not just in the liberation of Black people, especially from a leftist, socialist, communist perspective, but it was also part of a liberation of the working class. And so, in reflection of that, we try to embrace that. And it's more of a, not just a podcast, but it's more of also a teaching campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a means to take the rich leftist history that Black people have in the community, and we're basically dragging it back to the left. I think it was one of my fellow co-hosts who said that Barack Obama was brought to the Black community to make conservatism more appealing. We are going to not drag in a horrible sense, not drag in a hostile sense, but
sure,
more of bring them back over to their leftist roots. For instance, Angela Davis, Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X,
yeah,
W.E.B. Du Bois. So we're bringing them back over because the thing is that we realize that capitalism has done Black people no good. And by, extension has done the working class and people in general no good. And we also realize that collectivism is the only way that's going to save us. This individualism, this individualistic mindset that has permeated the United States is dangerous. And that is what capitalism is rooted in. It's individualism. It's I got mines and that's all that matters. Whereas we all realize that we're all part of a universal whole. We are all one, because we are all on the same planet together. So I said all that to say that, we're basically showing that we are the alternative to what a lot of the Black liberals and Black conservatives are touting today, because we're going back to our roots. Um, Basically, what you saw a lot in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we're bringing that back. And I'm very excited to be able to be with this group of people who feel the same way. And also, one of the things that I think that is best for us is to try to restart that same Rainbow Coalition that Fred Hampton
mm-hmm,
started along with Huey Newton.
yeah,
And this is the thing that honestly, I don't even want to call them elites. The oppressor class. The oppressor class, that's what they fear most, is a unification of the working class in order for us to come bring to fruition our our demands and what we deserve as citizens of this country.
Yeah, one of the things that and I have no ground to stand on. I was shamefully unaware of Fred Hampton and his message until relatively recently when he had this renaissance. I learned about COINTELPRO and his assassination maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was not something that was really in my purview, but the more you start to learn about him, you learn how young he was when he had these such developed ideas, this deep, rich understanding and empathy, this solidarity, and a tremendous foresight. And one of the things that was, really rooted in Fred Hampton and the greater project of the Black Panther Party was the idea of serving breakfast to all the members of the community. And obviously, for people who saw Judas and the Black Messiah, that's featured in the film. But I just think it's such a critical part and showed the deep understanding that he had, which is that that's one of the great ways to establish trust, to build relationships, to build community is over food and over sharing and showing that you're willing to take care of people. That's one of the things. I just wondered if you had a commentary on that specific element of their mission and the fact that they were, providing a real tangible benefit to their community and how the left today can kind of learn from that.
They showed what the government should have been doing the whole time. That is what we now call mutual aid. Making sure that the people are taken care of, through tangible means. They did something that was essentially a threat to the power of those in the upper echelons of society, because the upper echelons of society, through their individualistic mindset was basically, hey, you guys just do it on your own, and the fact that Fred Hampton was so prolific in doing this just shows us that it's even more of a reason why we have to engage more in mutual aid today. Because when you see exactly what is going on with, for instance, the pandemic, when you see, you have 500,000 people per year who are sleeping out on the streets tonight. He also did free clinics for people.
Yeah, well, I was about to say
sickle cell anemia too, which was specifically afflicting the Black community, which is why the government was paying no attention to it at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I'm a kidney dialysis patient. I would love to have, dialysis, without having to worry about being charged, an arm and a leg just to, stay alive.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that yeah, it almost seems like the Black Panthers really proved the feasibility and, the mutual aid was possible. It set this example for us that I feel like in the modern era hasn't quite been replicated. Nowadays when people talk about mutual aid, it kind of brings to your mind like an image of some raggedy hippies on a commune, like, doling out some like soup or something. But the Black Panthers, they had this really sophisticated network that was helping so many people, offsetting these costs, providing the solidarity network. And I just feel like we don't really have anything that truly like replicates that in the modern era in the leftist society. Do you think that there's anything like that emerging or any effort to kind of recreate that network of solidarity?
I think there is. The only thing is that it's probably within its beginning stages.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you have one of our my co-host Fred Hampton left this room. He is actually going out to Toledo, Ohio, and to Jacksonville, Florida, actually in a few days. And he's going to be doing some mutual aid events while he's there. So
nice.
I mean, they are happening. It's on a small scale. And fortunately, the government hasn't taken notice, so they won't be, trying to attack. But at the same time, I mean, people like what Rome is doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God, you have people who are in desperate need, and he's doing more than our politicians have done, the entire pandemic. So he did more in one day, and so, when you have these programs like, what Rome is doing, and, when you have back in the late 60s, early 70s, what Fred Hampton was doing in Chicago, this is something that I think is is something that's wonderful because it's showing the American people what could be versus what we have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, we have a few stories we wanted to get into today. So thanks obviously for, giving that introduction to the podcast, and everyone should definitely check that out. I think Zac and I might actually be coming on one of the other co-hosts' segment in a short amount of time. So that's super exciting. Stay tuned for that, guys. But yeah, awesome stuff, and really just an exciting concept. And it's cool to see you guys coming together because obviously all of the co-hosts have been active, Twitter leftists that I've followed for a while now. So it is really cool to see that. Anyway, there were a few stories we wanted to go over since we've been talking about socialism and all that good stuff. I was wondering if you had any specific opinions on Professor Richard Wolff, someone who we're going to be going over a couple of stories concerning today.
I like Professor Richard Wolff. His opinions, actually, he's a teacher, and I really, he breaks things down in such a succinct way that it's easy for me to digest.
Mm-hmm.
And because to me, the whole concept of economics just goes right over my head typically.
Yeah, that's a lot of people on the left, I think.
I already failed an economics class the one time I took one in college. I fucking hard failed it.
Yeah. And so between him and I am reading Stephanie Kilton's book, the Deficit Myth.
Mm.
So, between those two, it's like opening a world for me. So it's just like, oh, so it's not as complex as they make it out to be. And part of me actually thinks that they make it complex so that you don't figure out how the sausage is really made and how it could be made better.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And that is a great thing about Richard Wolff. Like I said, there's not a ton of figures on the left that are really completely literate when it comes to that language, and Richard Wolff is someone that can speak with such an authority about these subject matters that, you can't really, it's hard to challenge his credibility or his authority.
His immense pedigree.
Yeah, he's the professor emeritus at like the University of Massachusetts or something like that, and he's clearly just whip smart and knows what he's talking about. So I guess that's why I thought it was so funny or interesting rather that it was declared that he's going to be debating Destiny, the streamer who's taken a bit of a rightward shift towards like the pro-capitalist mentality. From what I remember, he used to be more lefty, more of like a Bernie bro type of dude, and then he kind of had this shift to the center, as people tend to do when they get certain size. Anyway, he's now
this apparently is a dude that I've only heard about in like passing, right? Like I know the name Destiny a lot, but I don't know anything about this guy.
Well, I personally find him to be tedious and unbearable. I think he's fucking annoying, and I hate the way he frames his arguments. I think they're honestly often disingenuous. But that being said, he's going to be debating Richard Wolff on the Surf stream. So this will be pretty exciting. I'm excited to watch for certain. And literally the explicit debate is over capitalism versus socialism. So again, I can't imagine sitting across from Richard Wolff and trying to defend capitalism. Like, can you imagine like
late stage capitalism in a pandemic?
Right, exactly. Like in 2021, after capitalism has, as Richard Wolff has explained so eloquently, has capitalism has only fueled this crisis and made it worse and tenfold. Apparently, Destiny thinks that it's still defensible and still the way forward. So I'm super excited to see this debate. I'm super excited to see Richard Wolff run circles around this guy. Do you have any opinion on how this is going to go down?
I'm going to choose my words carefully. Oh, hell, I don't care. It's going to be basically sit down, boy. That's basically what it's going to be. I'm sorry, but the whole defense of capitalism when you talk about I'm getting riled up now.
Get riled up. Feel free to.
Okay, so for the life of me, it's like you're defending something that is caused a huge amount of human suffering. Like, why in the hell am I here? Why am I on U.S. soil? Why has my ancestors been here on U.S. soil? Has it ever occurred to them that because of the nature of capitalism always being for profits and profits over people, that when chattel slavery was brought here to the United States, it was because they wanted free labor in order to keep the profits off of their agriculture. So a lot of people, especially liberals, like to think, oh, well, slavery is just because they were racist. No, it was capitalism that was the cause because of the greed that they had. And, capitalism facilitates greed, it's a catalyst for greed. And so then they, enslave my people, bring us over here. And then you have, they, they just, sorry, I had dialysis today, so my brain is
Oh
like,
no, hey man,
good,
take your time.
But then they have this system where we're treated like less than animals. And so it's, to me, it's a very inhumane system because, with capitalism, it's just death. I mean, I can't even find the right words to say about it because, you know, it's sickening because thinking about all the things that have been done to people in the name of profit.
Yeah. I mean, just think about debating capitalism on a laptop that's made out of minerals that were extracted from some, third world country where people were exploited in the process so that some asshole here could get rich here in America. Literally, the equipment you're using to debate on is the product of capitalist exploitation of the developing world, modern day imperialism. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really not up for debate.
And you made the point about, chattel slavery and capitalism being the motivator for that, obviously. But one of the things that completely blew my mind that I don't think a lot of people grapple with is, when I read Assata Shakur's autobiography, one of the things that she lays out pretty clearly is why the Civil War even happened. And that was not to end racism. That had absolutely nothing to do with liberation. It was white capitalists in the North growing suspicious of the South industrializing and having a free labor force that would then put all of the working class whites in the North out of work. And it was those competing kind of narratives that continued to lead to the exploitation and countless deaths and all these other things that you mentioned.
Yeah, and we don't even need to go back to chattel slavery. Current modern day slavery, the prison industrial complex is currently going on as a direct result of capitalism and private prison industry. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is continual horrors being wreaked on the most marginalized among us by this system. I don't see how that's really up for debate. Again, I'm excited to see the discussion. We'll definitely be commenting on it here at the Vanguard, so make sure to subscribe so you get our commentary on this debate. But again, I think this is going to be a slam dunk for Professor Wolff.
It will be. The thing is that capitalism is an animal that is easily debunked when you think about it from a very rational frame of mind. The thing is that you have people who have this individualistic mindset, and it's based on selfishness, and it's based on, well, it's all about me, versus socialism is more of a collectivist mindset.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, it's about us because, humans inherently are collectivist. We cannot survive without being and working as a collective. That's how we are built. Whether you believe in creation or evolution, we were evolved to be collectivists. If you believe in creation, and we were designed to be collectivists. No matter what, this is how humans are. And the thing is that if we deviate from that, then that's only going to lead to our destruction. And I like to put it this way: anything that is a catalyst that directly or indirectly leads to death is something that we should avoid. For instance, pollution, and the, degradation of our climate, that is something that leads to,
Right.
pollution.
And we would have come to that conclusion a long time ago as a society if it weren't for capitalism. Obviously, like I mean, people have known about climate change and the
since
pollution.
the 70s. The
people have
70s, we've
been
known how bad.
Very aware of it. It's only because of the continual pressure exerted on our politicians by these industries and lobbies, which again is directly a manifestation of capitalism. It's
a radical fact before we play this clip, really quick for everybody, just so that people know. A lot of people are familiar with Al Gore's book or movie and book on climate change, An Inconvenient Truth. What a lot of people don't know is that we've actually pumped more carbon into the globe since that came out than we did in the entire history before it came out, which means that we've destroyed our planet more knowingly than we did when we were doing it supposedly in the dark. But anyway, we can play this Richard Wolff clip.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one.
Yeah, this was a clip from a recent episode of On Contact, which continues to be a good source of material for us to react to here at the Vanguard. Just great conversations being facilitated. Honestly, I love Chris Hedges and his show. Anyway, they got into political parties a little bit, and we thought it would be worth playing what this, what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're going to play the clip.
Yeah, one second. Let me pull it up. Sorry, whenever I'm trying to pull up something and talk, I always it turns into word salad.
It's okay.
But yeah, let me find this.
We're putting the reps in 6 more months. You'll get it down. You'll be able to
go.
talk and pull up clips. Although I can't talk shit. I never have to do anything in this podcast to talk. Gavin does all of the behind the scenes shit.
Oh yeah, the word salad I just had a few minutes ago was crazy. So don't worry.
It's all good. Yeah, it happens on the microphone. I don't think people care, luckily. But okay, we're going to 22:30.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, if you don't watch this, this is like Evan mentioned, this is a regular part of our media diet, and not just because we pull clips for our show, but because it's a really enriching program. He has a lot of a great range of guests on there. It's one of my favorite RT programs.
Yeah.
It is a story in which the workable.
Wait, where was this?
That $1,400 check is going to go right. Is spent, and we should. These relief checks are gone.
I'll just play it from here. It's fine.
This money is spent, and we should be clear that $1,400 check is going to go right into the pockets of credit card companies, student debt services, landlords, utility companies, etc. It won't last very long. Don't we end up right back where we were?
Yes, we have never gone away from that. This crisis has been handled first by Trump. Well, to be honest, if you go back to the 2008 crash, because we should all remember, we have now been crashed twice in a mere 12 years, not much in historical time. A catastrophe in 2008 and 9, and now again in 2000. We can always blame some external event. The subprime mortgage disaster in 2008 or the COVID viral pandemic. But this is a system that crashes very regularly, and blaming the trigger is a game when you don't want people to ask, is there something built into this system? But yes, we have done nothing to change it. The charge of the Republican and Democratic Party leaderships is to get the system through its own crisis without compromising who's the rich people, who are the ones in power and in control. And you can see it step by step. Nothing makes it more clear than this growing gap of inequality. Mr. Trump came in to office promising implicitly and explicitly to do something about the inequality. Phony. He made it worse. Mr. Biden is coming in, made the same promise, and now it looks from these two bills like he's just not able to do it or willing to do it. Look, in December of 2017, the tax rate on corporate profits was dropped by Mr. Trump and the Republicans from 35% to 21%, a staggering cut in the tax on corporations, which came after a 30-year period in which corporations were more profitable than at any other comparable period in American history. If ever the case could be made, they didn't need a tax cut. That was the case to be made then. They got it. They got it. And in this tax cut was buried a commitment to keep the system going, only more so. And what is Mr. Biden proposing? To raise the corporate profit rate from the 21% that Trump brought it down to back up to 28%, literally halfway back to where it was. And the chances are he won't even get that through the Congress. It'll end up being less than the 28%. Well, you know, this doesn't barely reverse Trump, let alone make a positive change. And with all the hoopla about spending on COVID relief, and I'm glad he's doing it, and the hoopla about infrastructure, and I'm glad he's doing it, the other side of that story is the absolute refusal to make anything like the basic cultural changes. And a final addendum. Mr. Biden said the other day that this is a basic change, and then he used the phrase, "I'm not tinkering around the edges." Well, the way you can summarize what I'm arguing is that's exactly what he's doing. He's tinkering around the edges, and like other politicians, hopes that by saying he isn't doing what he's doing, we all miss the reality of what he's doing. And that is, he's not even doing FDR. He's not making a structural change. He's not introducing a Social Security or a minimum wage or all the breakthroughs that FDR made, and he didn't change the capitalist system either.
And that's such a great point, and probably the best refutation I've seen of this narrative that the media is just so insistent on selling us that Biden is, you know, he's overcoming all of these worries that us progressives had, and that he's actually, you know, fulfilling this FDR style legacy. And, you know, look at these bold packages and all this stuff. But, you know, Professor Wolff is absolutely right. It is tinkering around the edges. It is nothing fundamental has changed. It's not
just like you promised, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like Biden has introduced a sweeping new reform that would actually help fix the system. It's really just a shot of adrenaline and like a heroin junkie. You know, this is going to overdose again. It's not going to it's not going to fix the problem. It's just a momentary Band-Aid. So I think it's a great point. And also I like the way he talks about the corporate tax rate, how, you know, now Biden's basically only going to put it back up to where it was before Trump, and probably not even there. So it's like this one step.
Yeah, they're hovering at like 25% now, because that's all Joe Manchin will do.
And this is what I was honestly trying to, you know, mention the other day when we interviewed Noam Chomsky, when I was pressing him on climate change. And you know, I'm like, as long as we have this two-party system, the Republicans are going to keep getting back in control. And when it comes to something like climate change, that means we're going to keep taking one step forward, two step backwards. And that's not feasible. That two-party system is not feasible for that reason. And I agree that the Republican Party, as it currently is a, you know, radical extremist faction, all that stuff. And that's why it's unacceptable for there to be a system where it oscillates between these two factions having control. You know, we're never going to have progress if it's always just this regressive force coming in to smash everything that's been built up. And again, that's not to, you know, praise the incrementalist neoliberalism of the Democratic Party. It's just to say that whatever mild, you know, half step they take in the right direction, they know damn well is going to be washed away in the flood of the next GOP administration and all of their regressive policy. So just so well said by Professor Wolff here.
Yeah, that is breaking off a branch and saying that you chopped the tree down. It's basically what all it is. You know, it's like I'm not tweaking around the edges, and it's like you're taking this tiny little sliver of what needs to be done. You know, and it's happening this way because he does not want it to happen that way. Joe Biden has been in office nearly, 50 years. and homeboy he knows what that job entails. He was the vice president for 8 years, so he knows all the things he actually can do. But because of his neoliberal ideology, he refuses to do it. So therefore, and plus to him, it's like, you guys had the Republicans for 4 years. What are you guys complaining about? Yeah. And it's like, bitch, you're a Republican. What the hell?
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, Kyle Kulinski, he always makes the comparison that the Democratic Party is the Washington Generals, right? And it makes, and I love that phrase because it's so indicative of exactly what they are. It's like they're there to be beat by the Harlem Globetrotters, right? And so it's just like, even when they win, they lose, right? Now, like the Democrats are that perfect example. Like they're there to like fuck up and get like a non-victory basically, and then call it a victory, right? And that's exactly what it looks like. This tax reform is going to be, right? They're going to settle at 25%, which is even less than it was in the Obama. And nobody who was making, less than $400,000 is like the threshold for where your taxes will be raised. And I think it's important to go ahead and interject that also the whole game here, the why this is all a loss anyway, it's a completely bogus victory, is because it doesn't fucking matter what you make the corporate tax rate in this country, right? Amazon doesn't fucking pay it. All right, none of these fucking companies pay the tax rate anyway. They could, Jeff Bezos is like Ligma, bro. Like, I don't care what the fuck, make it 100% corporate tax rate, right? Like, he doesn't care because he's going to pay no money in fucking taxes anyway. I remember Bernie Sanders tweeted out that if you pay for Zoom Premium, then you're paying more taxes than the entire corporation. You're paying more than the entire corporation of Zoom paid in taxes that year because of all the loopholes that are in there by design. So it's all a fucking farce.
Yeah, totally. That's such a great point that the whole corporate tax rate is really not really, it's kind of an obfuscation from the real conversation. And that's, I think, very intentional to take any and all responsibility off of corporate America to pay their fair share or to, redistribute any of their wealth that they've gained in this pandemic, which is just truly fucking obscene. Since we've been talking about socialism, I was actually watching this clip this morning and this caught my eye. A good friend of the show, Jordan Peterson, has been making the rounds on YouTube.
A lefty finally had him on their podcast. I like how he's bitching and no shade at Russell Brand. I like Russell Brand a lot. But Jordan Peterson is bitching how no serious leftists will debate him. And so it's like, you know what? He goes on Russell Brand's show. And it's like, I like Russell Brand, and Russell Brand is way smarter than Jordan Peterson thinks he is, which is why I think this is a good selection. But I know the way that Jordan Peterson's mind is working. He's like, I can go have a debate with Russell Brand, and he's not going to crucify me the way like the Vanguard would.
Also, because Russell Brand is seemingly, from what I've consumed of his content at least, is genuinely a very nice person that's not really interested in like excoriating someone. Like, he's interested in like having a human to human, like, holistic conversation and all that stuff, which is a good, that's like, we need more of that energy, honestly, to be completely honest. So, apparently he's back in America, and he's once again telling people how to live their lives, rules to responsibly be
make your bed every morning, all that kind
citizen.
Of shit. Right? That'll solve the world's problem.
Exactly. Anyway, again, I was watching his most recent interview with Russell Brand, who, like Zach said, we're both fans of. And I just thought this was funny because, tell me guys if you catch this as well, but it seems like he kind of not only explains but completely sympathizes with the position of redistribution of wealth and of socialism, frankly. So I thought this was interesting, and I'll be interested to see if you guys caught this as well.
An own goal kind of sorts, kind of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a very maybe who knows? Maybe with his time in Russia, addicted to Zoloft, weaning himself off of opioids or whatever the fuck.
Zoloft, I believe, is benzodiazepine.
Is a benzo? Yeah, you're right. Anyway, maybe he had a change of heart. Maybe he realized that everyone needed the same kind of medical care that he was receiving. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he realized that being a cruel piece of shit was not the right answer to living your life. Anyway, this is kind of funny.
Calories that someone in sub-Saharan Africa has access to now, they have access to as many calories per day as the typical person in Portugal did in 1960. So it's a walloping transformation. And they've passed satiety. So what will happen now is that the next problem on the consumption side that faces sub-Saharan Africans on average will be a rise in obesity. But the problem with statistics or even ideas that concentrate on the average is you don't take into account the distribution. And so just because the average has improved massively doesn't mean that there's not problems of unequal distribution, severe problems of unequal distribution. So imagine we have these are existential problems though, in some sense. They're not political problems. They're deeper than political problems.
But redistribution is not a political problem. It's an existential problem. Don't worry. Anyway.
You have the problem of absolute privation, and that's the normal state of affairs. You're born with nothing in some sense. Right. Left to your own devices, you just starve and die. So that's the susceptibility to absolute privation. And then the second problem is the susceptibility to relative privation. And those are both big problems. And so the optimists say, well, look, we're really, really solving the problem of absolute privation. And they say, well, every day, 200,000 people in the world are lifted out of the UN's definition of abject poverty. So maybe they slide from $1.90 a day to $2.10 a day. And that's to be celebrated, but then at the same time, you can say, well, yeah, but they're still living on $2.10 a day. And both of those are right simultaneously. Like, it is something worth celebrating, but it's also, there's still the lingering problem of relative deprivation. And when you hear everybody rattling about inequality, that's why. And it's no shit. It's not like there's not a valid point there.
Doesn't it kind of sound like he understands the concept?
Well, it's the whole point of a guy like Jordan Peterson is that he knows what the correct analysis is, right? Probably, but he's paid to kind of, give these it's like, yeah, he just identified a completely correct analysis of the situation, but his solution is going to be complete horseshit, right?
Yeah. We were just covering this recently on the show, which is why I thought this was interesting. Bernie, was tweeting about how we shouldn't be wasting money essentially on space travel while people are literally starving in this country. And he responded, subtext, those who dare to be interested in the exploration of space are nowhere near as moral as those of us who care so much for the poor. So, basically completely hypocritical. If you understand that, wealth is being hoarded by people like Elon Musk, for example, and that the distribution is not equitable, which is resulting in people living on starvation wages and literally dying, then why are you not going to understand the concept that maybe people like Elon Musk shouldn't have enough money to literally fund missions to Mars while other people are sleeping on the streets, right? Like, it just seems like a totally hypocritical, deflection. And I don't understand how you could think both things at once. Like, for me, it makes total sense why people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos should not get to live in luxury while other people starve and literally, die. So I don't understand the disconnect, but
what do you think, James?
I don't know, maybe it's juvenile of me, but why don't he just shut the fuck up?
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, it's that whole tweet at Bernie Sanders is stupid because, I mean, we can do both. We can want to explore space, but also have the moral clarity to make sure that people aren't going without. And the thing is that it doesn't make one person more moral than the other. It's just that it's all about prioritizing, because as much as I want to get to Mars, but I also want to make sure that the neighbors down the street aren't starving to death.
Yeah.
So, and also it's even more of an incentive to me, if you're going to explore space and you realize that you're all part of a cosmic whole, that you would make sure that everybody's taken care of first before you do anything else.
Instead of this maximalist extractive perspective, which they have, which is, we are going to destroy the planet Earth with capitalism because of the maximalist extraction that these uber capitalists like Bezos and Musk understand inherently. These guys understand that they are going to take and pry every bit of resources from this Earth and then leave it behind. That's why they're obsessed with space travel, right? And I do think, just to respond to this, and I know we covered it when he tweeted this initially, but I do think that it is fucking ridiculous to say, there, you know, there isn't a clear moral choice to be made between, oh, I want to explore the stars, and oh, I want to make sure that the people who are living on $1.88 a day live on fucking $15 an hour, $20 a minimum hour, whatever we decide is the minimum wage for the West, the global West. It should be that way for the global South and all of the country, and you know, fixing the entire economic system that has to be a part of that. So the sort of cognitive disconnect and the mental gymnastics that guys like Peterson will do to try and make themselves appear virtuistic, try and make themselves appear empathetic, are it's just all for show. And they're going to continue to pretzel and bend back into a way to, oh, you know, spending your money responsibly and making your bed in the morning, and, you know, never calling anybody by the pronoun that they fucking prefer. That's what's going to solve this problem.
Yeah, and especially when the like mission to Mars stuff is on the explicit subtext that Elon Musk's buddies will have ruined this Earth, so they have to go to Mars. You know what I'm saying? Like the kind of reason why these people are interested in that is because they're aware of what's going on here at home, and that, again, thanks to capitalism, this Earth is not going to be a viable home for life forever. You know,
individualism is going to be the death of us. Exactly. You know, and the thing is that people like, you know, Elon Musk and Bezos and all those other ones who basically they are the villains of modern society. You know, they are.
Elon Musk is Lex Luthor.
Oh, of course. Dr. Evil, if you're you know, got a big enough imagination. But
he does look more like him, yeah. Just a slightly like more emaciated Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
Bezos has more Luthor vibes, but you get what I'm going with.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But you know, that whole individualistic mindset is, you know, it puts themselves first over everyone else. And you know, back to Jordan Peterson's point about when you're born, you're born with nothing, and without any assistance, you will die. That actually is part of the entire crux of the collectivist mindset. You're born because, you know, you survive being born because of someone helping you and coming together. That's basically inherently collectivist. We're not born and then we stand up upright on 2 feet when, you know, 2 hours after we're born.
There's literally that saying, it takes a village. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So therefore, you have to start thinking of the world as one village. And that's the problem. Like, for instance, here in the United States, we're the United States. It's just us. And this is one of the things that actually have a gripe about this country, is that people are so me oriented that to them it's like, fuck the world doesn't matter. When the thing is that, you know, if we continue with this trend, for instance, with climate change, guess what? We're gonna die anyway.
Yep.
You know, so I don't give a shit how my bed is made. I give a shit about who's eating.
Yeah.
I give a shit who has health care. Yep. And the thing is that, yeah, you have some of these people who are like Bezos and Mr. Emerald Mines over there, and they want to basically take all the wealth from the people who, you know, helped create that wealth for them, you know, from their labor.
We'll do wherever we want.
And then they want to hoard it all, and then they expect everybody to be able to survive, you know, when they've hoarded all the wealth that they were supposed to have originally in the first place.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I saw the other day that Jeff Bezos is on track by like 2026. He'll have $1 trillion, right? I mean, it's that kind of exponential growth that, I mean, obviously it's unsustainable, but it's going to reach a point where even the 1%ers are battling out only amongst the 1%, because there's no wealth amongst the working poor and the proletariat to vacuum up anymore. But
I should have smoked some weed before the show.
Well, next time you come on, we'll get a sesh going.
Yeah.
A virtual sesh. Where do you record out of, James? What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, nice. Right on.
Yeah, so I'm near one of the largest multinational corporations that basically, you know, has much of the country by the balls, so to speak. So
radicalizing right there.
Yeah,
it's crazy how much Disney owns now.
Yeah. So it's ridiculous. Honestly, I think that we need. I would love to see antitrust laws applied to this company.
Oh,
Dude,
for sure.
I know in Anaheim. I know up in Anaheim, Disneyland literally pays like $1 in taxes. Like I'm not shitting you. Like $1 fucking dollar.
Remember that LA Weekly article that was talking about that you sent me forever ago about how fucked up Disney is in Anaheim?
Yeah,
like forcing the city to pay all of to build
sure
parking lots and garages and all kinds of, dude, it's like that all over the place. But anyway, James, thanks so much for joining us on the show today, man. It was great chatting with you, and we definitely want to make sure that we get you back on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It went a lot faster than I expected. So
yeah, well, you're welcome back on at any point. We loved chatting with you. Do you want to maybe plug your show and where people can keep up with you one more time before you go?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter at JayBefaunt. That's JayBefaunt. And you can also catch us at the Fred Hampton Leftist podcast. It's Fred Hampton Left on Twitter. And you can also catch us on YouTube at Fred Hampton Leftists. And and I appreciate having you guys on. Subscribe to the Vanguard.
Yeah. Woo. Thanks, man. And have a good time. And
all
right.
Thanks so much, dude. We appreciate that. Yeah, that was awesome chat. Again, make sure to check out the Fred Hampton Left podcast. Obviously, most people are aware of this fact, but it does bear repeating that this is a very white-centric space, unfortunately, and there's not enough black content creators in kind of the lefty YouTube realm, I think, that have enough.
Especially when it must be said that a lot of the shit, the radical thinking and writing that Gavin and I are relying on when we are talking about all these shit, that comes from the black community, obviously. And it's fucked that there's so lack of diversity in a socialist space where we want to prioritize that kind of thing. So
especially when like I said, the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton, these guys were some of the most innovative and actually, putting into action mutual aid, putting into action these communist and socialist ideals that we love to talk about, but who's actually doing them? It was those guys. And here on the left, we always talk about FDR and stuff like that. Why not connect it to the more recent, more radical, less elitist legacy of the Black Panthers rather than FDR, who of course has his issues, to say the least.
Lots of them. The fucking internment camps, giving black people the shaft and not making minorities a part of the New Deal, etc. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that there's so much rich history from even, like I said, even more recent in our own country's history that we can look to for inspiration about how to build this movement in a successful way. And obviously, if you want to say the Black Panthers weren't successful, there's a reason why, and it wasn't their own fault. It was this fucking government's fault that assassinated them. So anyway, great history. And again, check out that podcast. We look forward to having Jay back on, as well as some of the other co-hosts as well. One last thing we wanted to do before we jump off was
a new segment on the Vanguard, essentially, right? This has become a new stand-in for how we wrap the show.
Yeah, exactly. And shout out to Lynn B, by the way, our patron who alerted me to this segment. But once again, myself and Zach, we were well, I don't want to say we were featured because I said that last time and then they made fun of me. But a clip of our show was featured on Useful Idiots, co-hosted by Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper. Again, we did a video, one of the only channels that I'm aware of that did a video about how Useful Idiots was canceled by Rolling Stone. Essentially,
and we found out that we had a horseshit take. Apparently, they kind of clued us in on the last video that we're about to watch. We assumed that it was because of Syria and Assad and all that kind of shit, and their coverage of what was going on. It looks like it's actually because of Saudi Arabia and Yemen, or at least that's what's implied.
Right.
Exactly. A lot of people were like, wow, this is terrible journalism and lazy journalism. It was like, we were just literally speculating. This was a literal fucking clip. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just want to say a huge shout out to Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper. We mentioned it last time, but Zach and I are big fans of obviously Taibbi's journalism going back for a while, but also just of Katie Halper on YouTube and of Useful Idiots, the program. They're two of the best voices on the left and two people we really respect. So obviously it's just been a treat and a little bit surreal to see our danky little show featured on their platform again.
Which is why we're going to ride this segment until the wheels come off, until they stop responding to the Vanguard. So anyway, go ahead and play the clip.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is pretty cool too.
Ambition in life in my media career, which is that I want Zac and Gavin from the Vanguard podcast. I want them to become the biggest thing on the internet.
Well, not
Do you hear that, guys? Just saying.
the biggest thing on the internet.
Absolutely, even bigger. Like
No.
Even bigger.
No.
Even bigger, Katie.
Bigger. They can be our sidekick of a show.
Okay, so it can be Useful Idiots and Friend or Friends.
Friends.
I'm the
But
friend.
only
This
Check
time
in
I'm
with
the
this.
friend,
See what
Hey, Katie, come on. We never had Rolling Stone propping this up.
they did this week
Right.
because
Yeah.
they did a thing on why we were fired from Rolling Stone,
Yeah.
and then we did a thing watching them,
Right.
watching us, and then they did a thing watching us, watching them, watching us. So now we can
which
do a
means
thing.
I think we actually have to
watching
look
them.
this way if we're gonna do that thing. So no, you need to turn the other way. Yeah, then we both need to look this way when we're watching this clip so that it works out well. So anyway,
Yeah. This is going to be trippy as shit, guys. It's going to be like 15 screens on one screen. Get ready.
Watching us, watching them,
Watching them, watching us,
Yeah.
watching them, watching us.
So maybe we might be able to. It could be like a time machine or like a Doctor Who plot.
Yeah.
Right? If we
Yeah.
keep doing this long enough, maybe we'll get some kind of a chain
Maybe
reaction.
we'll run into Kurt Loder. How's that for a
Right.
callback?
What is he again?
It's going to be like in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek when they go back in time and find like Leonard Nimoy, Spock from the original series, like a ultimate
in a
time
cave.
warp. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to break YouTube and like find fucking Jeremy Corbyn sitting there on a stone naked smoking a pipe or something.
He's ageless, and so
Ageless.
we found him. We found photos of him in cave drawings. We found photos of him in, the Stalin drawing. I mean, the Stalin photo. I think I
Right.
even found him in that.
At Yalta, right? He was.
Yeah, right.
If we do this enough with the Vanguard,
Yeah, we'll go back in time.
we'll eventually find Kurt Loder.
Yes,
Like the
that's what
birth
it
of
is.
Kurt Loder.
Yeah,
Right? It'll
Yeah.
be like Quest for Fire, right? We'll find him like in the Earth is a primordial soup kind of a thing.
Right.
And, yeah, and he's walking around
ladling.
bearskin, ladling, right? Yes. Well, anyway, we should watch the clip, right?
Yeah.
We were on Useful Idiots, bro.
Bro, that was fucking crazy. So for anybody who doesn't
We were
know,
on it.
I and me and Gavin, both of us, have been big fucking fans of Useful Idiots, Matt Taibbi's books. Obviously we're doing the fucking Hate Inc. book club right now. And yeah, they fucking pulled one of our clips reacting to
Did they
Rolling
take-
Stone getting canceled, and they actually reacted to it, and it didn't seem like they hated it. So that was awesome.
Yeah,
We
this
didn't
was
hate
trippy,
ink it.
guys.
We
They
didn't
were
hate
reacting
ink it.
to Us
Right,
reacting
that's
to them. It was pretty wild, pretty trippy stuff. And what I'm about to do here is going to make it even trippier because now it's us Wow. looking at them. Looking
Yeah,
at
Gavin, now
us,
you got to
looking at
turn
them.
profile like this.
So
Let's
this
do
is
the- let's do the
fucking
clip. There you go.
crazier.
That joke going too far.
Yeah. But this was crazy, guys. I was just chilling last night when this episode dropped, and I forget who it was, but shout out to whoever hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah,
Funniest voices in this, leftist media space.
A
So
great host. One of those
yeah,
people that
oh,
just
yeah.
facilitates great conversations. I love her live streams because it is just kind of like, this is a conversation that I want to be a fly on the wall for.
Yeah, exactly. She's great at facilitating conversations between different voices, interesting voices that you might not expect to see in the same room at the same time, but always makes for a lively discussion. So, huge shout out
to Malcolm.
to Katie
The
Helper and
dog.
Matt Taibbi. We're so glad that you guys noticed our coverage of Rolling Stone's pulling the plug on Useful Idiots. Of course, we think that's so fucked up, and we also think it was weird that no one else really covered it. So we're. How many boxes can we get on the screen, guys? Can we get this up to like 48? Let's keep going. If you're listening, Matt and Katie, we want this to keep going. We want this to be 100, 200 screens on. We want it to be a kaleidoscope of Matt, Katie, Zach, and Gavin. Anyway, shout out. For, big shout out.
Woohoo.
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool stuff. Thanks so much for tuning in. And yeah, tomorrow's 420. Happy 420, everyone.
Gavin and I are about to go celebrate a little early.
Anyway, it's been a good time. Big shout out to our guests, Matt and James. It was super fun chatting. We'll be back soon. Make sure to hit that like button so this video gets promoted in the algorithm. Again, we're trying to disseminate this communist propaganda as far as it'll go. But make sure to hit that notification button as well. Again, we're going to be live probably not tomorrow, but the next day for sure. So you'll want to know when that happens. And once again, huge shout out to everyone supporting the show on patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Again, that link is in the description. You can join for as low as $1 a month. For $5 a month, you get access to our, best content early, essentially. And for $10 a month, even more cool benefits. So go check that out, guys, if you're interested. But if not, that's cool too. Again, just like and subscribe.
You're all comrades in our hearts. Thanks
Absolutely.
for listening, everybody. And yeah, we'll be back at you with some more stuff probably on Wednesday.
We're gonna make it the collage into an NFT.
We'll never make an NFT. We love the earth, and yeah. But anyway, peace out, guys.
Yeah, see you guys. Everyone have a good one.
Yeah, peace out.